For an organization whose starting point is, hey, we should build this ourselves, it's going, well, actually, there might be a better way. By collaboration, by sharing, you're going to get a much better outcome. And what does that look like? So again, trying to help people understand where they should invest, what gives them a competitive advantage, what gives them a competitive advantage not to build.
You're listening to the Retail Crime Intelligence Podcast by Auror, where we share actionable insights to help you reduce crime and violence in your stores.
Hey everyone, Bobby Haskins here on the new episode of Auror's The Retail Crime Intelligence Podcast. And I have my friend, also my boss, Rhod Thomas, on with me. Rhod, how are you?
Yeah, good, man. And I can't say I've ever thought of myself as your boss. And it sounds weird that you even saying that, man. But yeah, great friend, great colleague, Bobby Haskins. It's great to be chatting. And my first podcast, maybe my second one, but my first proper one.
I mean, I've done a few of these. They forced me into this role. I think it's interesting though, Rhod, like we're not supervised right now. There's like no one from the marketing team on watching this podcast, making sure like we're well behaved. It's very risky for our marketing team.
We have a high trust environment, but this feels like too much trust. Jimmy did tell me that he's given you access to all the sound effects as well.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we can just, maybe make a fun joke at some point. And drop in the drums. Like,
oh dear. Professionals as always.
We're 30 seconds in and we're already off the rails. That's how it goes. Cool. Well, hey Rhod, I mean, appreciate you making the time. Thank you for jumping on here from New Zealand. You've made a few trips to the good old US of A and visited our customers here in North America. Been over to support the team quite a few times. You're not a new face for anyone in this industry anymore, but I think it's good for them to understand your background a bit, where Rhod came from before Auror. And I think it just level sets a bit on what I want to talk about today, which is the age-old build versus buy in the software space. And I think your background makes a big difference and actually makes you an expert on this space. So, Rhod, why should we listen to you on build versus buy? Make me understand why you're the authority to talk on this.
Yeah, sure, Bobby. I've been at Auror now for 5.5 years, about 2 weeks shorter than you've been years. You constantly remind me. But the time before that, I've done a few different things around the world. So I actually started off, my degree is in economics and management. So that was back in the UK, at the University of Oxford. So a lot of my time was spent studying the theory around some of these things in terms of, things like build versus buy. How do you optimize? How do you decide when to do things like that, making the right strategic calls as an organization? And then I actually went and worked for Deloitte in the UK for many years. And a lot of that was advising around, cost optimization, outsourcing, cost reduction, and build versus buy or different sort of outsourcing structures as part of that. That took me all over the world. So I actually spent quite a bit of time in the States. People often get surprised when my interesting fact is that I lived in Memphis for 11 months, which was 11 of the best months of my life. I absolutely loved the place. Actually going to be popping back there for a night on the way to the Apex conference.
Beale Street action.
A little bit of Beale Street actually going to take the team to do the touristy sites, pop to Graceland and Sun Studios and things. So that'll be a lot of fun. And traveled all over the States as part of that role. Again, doing the same thing, helping some of these decisions be made for these large US companies. That actually took me to New Zealand, where I fell in love with the place and have been here ever since. But I've worked in the corporate sector for 5, 6, 7 years in New Zealand in various commercial roles. Again, helping these decisions be made in these organizations and making these decisions within my teams as well.
Awesome. And just, for everyone listening in, what's the official role at Auror? It's not just, the pretty face that shows up at the events, but like, what's your role at Auror?
Good question. I ask myself that quite a lot.
Same here, man.
I like wearing lots of different hats, as you know. Don't wear the Auror baseball cap as well as you, though, Bobby. But I chief customer officer, chief commercial officer. The two I sort of use interchangeably. The area that I look after as part of the leadership team here is everything customer. So everything from our marketing through sales, through our account management, customer success in both retail and law enforcement. But my area of real expertise and passion is really the commercial side. So our agreements, the negotiations, how we structure deals, how we price things, and really driving a lot of that sort of decision making and helping our customers get the best deal and best value from Auror.
Awesome. Yeah, and supporting the global teams, the ever expanding teams here at Auror. I know all of our roles have changed a lot. Before we start talking about build versus buy, you're almost, 6 years at Auror. Like, what's been the one highlight? Like, what's the one moment you go back to that was like, that was that magic moment for you and your time at Auror? You're probably adding them over and over again, but like, what's the big one?
There's probably two for me, Bobby. I think they're two quite distinct different things and probably highlight the things that I'm most passionate about in this company. So the team has grown tenfold since we started in terms of number of people, and we don't see that as a sign of success, but it's important. Why that's important for me is it allows people to really grow their careers. And so some of the highlights for me have been team promotions. So I've had team members who started out as a customer success specialist and are now at the VP level over the last 6 years. And that's just amazing, seeing that growth and that development of the team. And probably the one magic moment for that was 18 months ago, we had our first Auror Impact, where we got the whole team from around the world together in New Zealand. And it was that first morning where we'd been locked down. People hadn't seen each other. The buses for the people that are coming from the UK, from the US, from Australia, got to meet people they never actually met in person before, but have worked with for a long time. That little magic moment, I try, not to get too emotional, but I definitely had a tear in my eye that morning. That was a real special thing of what it means to be part of this team, even though these people hadn't even met each other before. And then the flip side, or the other example, is really just getting to see our customers win. And it's where the customers share a particular story that's really hard hitting. And the one that really had a big impact on me was with a customer in North America who shared a story a few weeks after going live with license plate recognition, where they'd stopped a serial sex offender from offending by having an early alert on a license plate recognition camera, someone that had been creeping on young women who were working at the store. And the fact they were able to understand the patterns that person was visiting our stores multiple times per day, and then found out that person's background, were able to actually, remove that person from the situation, probably stopped a very serious crime from occurring. When you hear stories like that, that's the bit that really, really hits my, my heartstrings and makes me go, this is why we're doing this. This is the genuine impact we're having on, not just our customers' lives, but their customers' lives and their teams' lives. That's why we're all doing this.
Yep. Shrink and driving profitability is one thing, but when you look at the output of some of this technology and the impact it has on the in-store associate experience, it's making them safer, they're enjoying coming to work, and then looking at that impact on the customer experience, it's incredible. So Rhod, we're going to talk a little bit about build versus buy today. I've got some experience at my past retailer, Target, in this space. Also just comes up quite a bit, but from your perspective, why does this conversation matter, and why is it important to have as we go throughout the next few questions?
Yeah, I think for me, the build versus buy conversation is one that retailers and companies around the world always grappling with. Where do we focus our energy internally? What do we do ourselves? What do we outsource? What do we co-source? What do we supplement our team with? And especially in the space of technology. And I think obviously technology is moving so fast, and these models are moving so fast, it's really hard to give a definitive answer at any point in time in terms of what this looks like for an organization. But there's definitely been a strategy from certain retailers, which have been, hey, we're going to build everything, or we're going to build the vast majority, or if we're not going to build, we need a strong case as to why not. And I think that's actually leading to some bad outcomes for certain organizations. And it's really a chance to refocus that and just understand what's the model they should be using, what's a framework they can use that can actually help them make better decisions. And obviously we see it in our world, being selfish and thinking about how we can help retailers. The benefit of working as a community, the benefit of the connectivity of what we do is obviously the value. So for an organization whose starting point is, hey, we should build this ourselves, it's going, well, actually there might be a better way. By collaboration, by sharing, you're going to get a much better outcome. And what does that look like? So again, trying to help people understand where they should invest, what gives them a competitive advantage, what gives them a competitive advantage not to build. that's the key thing. You sort of got some methodologies and models that sort of can help with that. And again, I think if people are listening to this and going, I'm struggling with my IT team because that's their starting point, how can we help them with that journey to take their IT teams or other stakeholders on a journey to get to the right outcome for their organization?
There isn't a right answer in this space. It's not always build. It's not always buy. If you have a framework, it's going to come down to, I'm going to take the road that gives me the best strategic advantage, for that outcome that I'm looking for. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. I think, we were being selfish at the start. We would love if everyone doesn't build and buys in the retail crime intelligence space. But to your point, there's a strategic advantage of doing that in the collaboration and the network effect and those things that you can get. It's an interesting conversation. When you are in there, with customers, with prospects, when you're hearing the build versus buy discussion, how do you take the approach? How do you advise them? What's the starting point to head them down that decision tree of build versus buy?
I think traditionally companies have often looked at it as what's core to us versus what's non-core, and using that as sort of it's core to retail or it's core to our business, therefore we should build it. But I think that's a very old school way of thinking about things. For me, the key thing is what gives a strategic advantage. So if we actually build this and we can build it in a way that others can't, it gives a strategic advantage. And that's really where retailers, organizations should be looking to. So there's a 2x2 matrix, right? And I think that's it. If you thought about the strategic importance of this particular area, and then around complexity or urgency or market maturity on the other axis, and you sort of go, okay, well, if it's complex, its strategic importance high, yeah, we should probably build that. It gives us this benefit. Versus actually, if there's good market maturity, this is not complex, we should be looking to outsource this. If the market's got a level of maturity in terms of the product set, that actually means that if you're going to be building, you're just going to be trying to catch up with what the market can already do. You're not going to get a strategic advantage. It's probably going to put you back. And we've seen some large organizations around the world who have done that. And again, won't name any names, but they built their own thing and they're 2 years in. Ooh, this isn't actually delivering what others are using, that they just buy it on the open market and they deploy this within, a couple of months. And it's taken me 2 years to build it. And I put all this cost into it. I feel like I'm a bit stuck. And I think that's a challenge. Like, how did this play out back in your Target days?
I've got to be careful. There's some Target trade secrets, but I think, when I look back at my Target days, like there's a very big approach there to building. And that's shifted and changed over the years. There's 10 years at Target, I saw that pendulum swing a few times. A mobile app experience is a great example of building in-house, right? And when I shop at Target or Walmart, I love both of their mobile experiences. And they built that in-house and they were able to curate what that flow feels like, what buttons I press, what does that lead me to? And it helps drive that end-to-end customer experience that they're looking for, which for both of those retailers is a strategic advantage, right? They have different experiences for their customers and they invest in that. And if you build that application in-house, you can control that a lot more versus buying it somewhere else. And that's just one example of what we saw at Target, what we see, with different retailers in the industry right now on the build versus buy.
Makes perfect sense, right? Strategically important. It's going to have high customer value. It's that competitive advantage from having a better experience than the other retailer down the road. You control it yourself, the build yourself for sure, 100%.
If you put yourself in the customer shoe or prospect shoe or someone at in the retail loss prevention space that's having to walk through this discussion with their IT partners, what can you give them, just those nuggets to help start that conversation, to help look for the different things that would fall in that 2x2 matrix?
I had a really good example of this personally a few years ago. I was heading up the commercial function in a power company, and which will remain nameless. I've worked for a few, so I can be safe there. They were looking to replace their knowledge management system used for their internal call centers and sort of customer liaison. They'd built something in-house and it wasn't fit for purpose, should we say. And the business wanted to replace it with something fit for purpose and had gone out to market, found some really good solutions, wanted to trial and test them. So the internal IT team said, well, we've got 10 developers and we can build it for you in, I think it was in SharePoint. And they were like, yeah, but the last one you built for us wasn't fit for purpose. Why is it going to be any different? So I was sort of almost broker in this conversation between the business and IT and say, well, look, why don't we just test both? Why don't we just look at what the solution is we can build internally compared to the market? Let's look at the costs, let's look at the benefits, deployment times, etc., and see what's going to fit the business. And everyone agreed that would be like a very sensible decision. So off they went. I got a phone call the next morning. I remember it really, really well. I was out getting a coffee and I got a phone call from the CTO and he was quite irate. He said, what the hell are you doing? I said, makes sense. We can get the best outcome for the company. He said, yeah, but we can't compete with the market, what the solutions are. I was like, there's our answer. Surely we do the thing that's in the best interest of the company and the customers, not that's, well, I've got 10 people sitting there, so I have to use them, even if it's an inefficient outcome. Like, that's the equivalent of my wife saying she wants a new car. I'm going, great, I've got some spare wheels and a bit of metal in the garage. I've got my welding kit. I'll knock something up. It's like, doesn't make any sense, right? So that was a really telling thing for me in terms of often how businesses are not making optimal decisions based on what's right for the company or right for the customers, but actually what's right for an individual that's made some decisions at some point and can't back away from it, and the sort of gets into a bit of the sunk cost fallacy and where you've made some decisions, whether it's sort of political capital sunk cost or whether it's actual dollar sunk cost, that means you can't move away from it. It's actually, how do we call bullshit on some of this stuff and say we can't just work this way because someone's made a decision that it's the right thing for this company. We need a better way of optimizing these decisions and challenging that.
Spot on. And I don't have a sound effect to bleep you out, but I knew there was a couple times in there when you were talking about, the previous system built in-house, and, I was getting ready for the beep button, but we just don't, they didn't give us that one. We only have drums and random music. But the sunk cost fallacy is something that is definitely impacting business decisions. Do you have any good examples of where you've seen that fallacy play out? What happened? And then, like, what was the true cost? And what's the difference with the true cost that you've seen in some of those examples?
Yeah, I mean, I think this comes up really regularly for us when talking to customers, and often we get in a position where either a customer's trying to build a system, again, making the right decision at the right time, often several years ago, or they've either gone down a path halfway through and they go in, we were meant to have it built by now, it was meant to have this functionality, but we're now only delivering half the functionality and it's taken twice as long. It is a tale as old as time with developing IT. Things get hard once you get into the nitty gritty of building things and realizing, what you thought might have been simpler or possible is not, and priorities and funding changes. Or, as I said, they've already deployed the solution. It's not actually delivering the outcomes that the business need, similar to my last example. And often the challenge is, but we've spent the money now, or we're halfway through this project, we've invested all this time. That's the sunk cost fallacy. It's the fallacy of, well, I've spent money, therefore I should keep throwing money at this problem. It's sunk cost. It's gone. You can't get that back. You make the decision based on the knowledge you have at the time. It's so easy to say and everyone agrees with it logically, but when you're in that moment doing it, I think is really tough. It's effectively throwing good money after bad, as my gran would say. It's so true, and that happens all the time. And that's something that really upsets me, because you can see people that understand they're making a bad decision, but they're so in the weeds of where they're at, they can't see a way out. And they just keep plowing down that course, and it just ends up in a bad outcome every time. So it's like a big part of what I'm trying to do is, how do I help our customers, prospects in this space to actually change that course and get to a really good outcome? Because they know what the good outcome looks like. It's just helping them navigate their organization, or just give them a different perspective to get them to a good point.
The sunk cost fallacy is like, this is every single business, right? I mean, nobody is exempt from this. And to your point, a lot of times it's very emotion driven, right? I put my money in, I have this headcount, I have these people doing this. This was my idea, and it takes a lot to pull that emotion away. Have you seen this fallacy play out at Aura, whether it's with our internal teams or maybe external partners?
Yeah, 100%. We develop software, right? We're making decisions all the time and where to optimize. And I think we've made this mistake for sure. And there's one that stands out where we decided to go on a particular development path for a particular module. And we made all the right decisions at the time based on the information in front of us. And it probably wasn't the right path for us. And it's taken us probably 18 months to realize that we should have made that call 3 to 6 months in. we're doing the right reviews on that and making that call. And yet we've delivered some good functionality in this space to customers, but my view is it could have been better. And so that's where me as a leader in this company, I'm not going to hide behind that. I'm not going to not admit we made a mistake. I'm going to step up and go, we probably could have done that better. We probably should have reviewed that. We made the right decision 18 months ago, but we should have made a different decision 12 months ago. And it's taken this long to do that. And now we're changing some of that. Yep, we've been just as susceptible as anybody else to the sunk cost fallacy that we made. And it wasn't throwing dollars, but it was throwing time. It's fine to say we get it wrong. It's better to fail fast and shift fast than to wait 18 months. And we've now lost effectively 12 months of effective development. Thankfully, that's a rare occasion at Auror. I've been in much worse situations with, implementing ERP systems, $40 million in 2 years, the original plan, and $400 million and 8 years later, you've deployed something that isn't fit for purpose for the business. And unfortunately, at that point, no one's got the, we should probably do something different now. And again, it just puts the whole company in such a bad position. And again, it's just not viable these days.
Yeah. I saw that firsthand my time at Target, specifically the Target Canada expansion, taking the first approach to an international business at Target at the time. It made all the sense in the world to go up there and to acquire that retailer, to start opening up Targets. We had 126 locations, but as the years went on, it became very clear and very apparent there was a lot of sunk costs there. It was not going to be, a good experience, a profitable experience for many, many years to come. And hats off to the Target leadership at the time. They made a decision to move out. And having been someone that was up there for almost 18 months of my career and training teams and seeing individuals, that's a tough decision. But credit to the Target leadership team to say, just not the right decision right now, and we're going to make a really hard decision and move away from that. And that's a massive decision. And so, good example that I've seen in my tenure at Target Boutique.
I think that's that personal sunk cost you felt there, right? Being part of that for 18 months. And actually, if you can step back, I bet you learn a hell of a lot in that 18-month period. So don't see it as a wasted cost of 18 months. I bet you it would have grown so much through that process. And that's what I'd say to our customers. Yep, you've been through that experience. It might have been the right call, but hey, you made the right decision for the right time based on the information at the time. But as things have changed in the market, it's good to make a different call.
Yeah, 100%. I ate lots of poutine up there. Spent a lot of time in Marriott hotels. Met a lot of great people. Still individuals that I talk to day in and day out. It was a great experience. I love Canada. And every time I get back up there, I get to check in with some of those old Targeteers. So it's pretty cool.
Well, I mean, it wasn't called poutine through my childhood, but chips, cheese, and gravy at the local fish and chip shop was a regular through my high school years. So I can certainly empathize with why you enjoyed it so much. And I also now know why you always get upgraded when we stay at Marriott hotels and I don't.
Yeah. That was the single days of Bobby and no family, no kids at home, living in a Marriott for 18 months. It was an adventure. So cool. Well, let's pivot away from that quickly because they're going to take away our privilege to keep hosting podcasts. Rhod, walk me through an ROI demonstration of some kind when you think about true cost of building in-house versus buying a solution like Auror, and help guide the listeners onto a decision path, in a precise and easy way.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that a lot of organizations have is they focus too much on the cost. So what's the cost of buying this versus building it ourselves? But they don't actually look at the value. And I think that's the key thing. So there's a few things I talk about there, thinking about over a 3-year period or a 5-year period. If we were to build it ourselves, it'll cost us X. Versus if we were to buy it, it's going to cost us Y. And Y is bigger than X, therefore we should build it ourselves. There's a double opportunity cost there for me. There's the opportunity cost of not using those internal resources to do something that's more valuable, more strategically important for the business, like the mobile app you were talking about, Bobby, and putting that internal development team on something that's more valuable from a strategic importance perspective or can drive a competitive advantage. But then the second opportunity cost is the fact that you don't get the value for 12 to 24 months while you're building the thing. If you can buy off the shelf, you're getting that benefit from day one. So you're going to get no value for 12 to 24 months at least. Then the value is going to be lower because the solution is not going to be as good. and you've got resources that you could have spent doing something else. So I think all three of those things really need to be taken into consideration, not just the direct cost, and there's always loads of hidden costs when doing things internally as well that are often not factored into business cases. So for me, it's always, don't think about the cost, think about the value. What value is going to be delivered and how early? And if you actually model that out properly, I can guarantee almost every single time, certainly in our space, it makes far more sense to look externally. And this is not, a plug for Auror. There's obviously alternatives out there to us as well, but as a decision between internal versus external, that'll stack up every single time.
Yeah. It's interesting because time to value gets underplayed in those discussions, and they are focused on cost. But what's always forgotten in those discussions is the cost longer term of building, right? So technical debt. What is this solution going to look like 5 years from now? We forget about that when we think about the build side of this, and we forget about time to value. So there's some compounding challenges there that I see in this conversation that it's always good to just have a holistic look at. How long is this going to take? When would we get the value and the true cost of this?
And I think that's where some of the thought processes are quite legacy, where this conversation would have happened 10 years ago, either deciding to build something yourself or buy something. But by buying something, you were buying a thing. And that's what that thing was. It was version 1.3, and you were always going to be on version 1.3. And therefore,
it was a box. I put the widget on the shelf, right?
Exactly right. And that's it. And it's always going to be that thing. And therefore, the build versus buy was an easier comparison, because you didn't have to think about what it looks like in 5 years' time, because I'm either going to have to develop it again in 5 years myself or buy version 1.6 or 1.7. Whereas now it's different with SaaS, where that, that value and that incremental value is being delivered every single day, month, if you've got a good partner. And I think that just changes the equation completely. But some of our models and some of our business case decision making doesn't cater for that change in the market. It's improving for sure. A lot of people are thinking about it in a different way, but not to the level that they should be when they're thinking about the value being delivered.
Awesome. Well, Rhod, one more question for you before we close out. You've recently had an opportunity to build something, and it's called the Auror Run Club. And it's been fun to watch you get on the run journey and try to take me on that journey with you. But what is the Auror Run Club? And for the people listening in, how do they get involved in this crazy Welsh Auror Run Club you've got going on?
Now I get my chance to pitch to sell. So yeah, it's actually quite a personal thing for me, because I definitely go through fits and starts with fitness and health. And I was looking pretty unhealthy a few months ago. I definitely put on a bit of weight, wasn't exercising, and probably wasn't showing up the best for the team or for my family. So give me the impetus to actually go and do something else. And unfortunately, a few months ago, my mum got quite sick all of a sudden, and really hit home the fragility of life and how you need to make sure you're in the best possible position, not knowing what's around the corner. And so it was one of those wake-up moments for me. And I got back on the exercise train, eating healthily, cutting out a bit of alcohol. And for those who've met me at conferences know, I enjoy a cold beverage or two. And so that's been really cool for me to do that. And I was like, well, how do I put some things in place to help make this easier for me and get more support? And that's where Run Club was born, to go. It was actually Travers from CVS, who's been on a similar journey before me. And he just inspired me to do this. And I was like, let's go for a run together. He was like, let's do it together. And I was like, shit, this guy is he's an inspiration. And I was like, I'm going to see how do I help other people get on this bandwagon, and let's all support each other. So that's where Run Club was born. So the Auror Run Club. So we've got some swag, we've got some running tops, some running visors, but it's not just about running. It can be cycling, walking, it's any exercise. It's whatever it means to you. And I'm trying to do my little bit by giving out a free running top and visor to anyone who wants one. Just DM me on LinkedIn or drop me an email or message me, or any one of the Auror team will get you a link where you can just order your free swag. And it's about creating that community. I'll be in Denver in a few weeks with you and the team. I'll be bringing my Run Club top. And the team there have got them, and we'll do a team run together, and some will do team walks, and some people will go out on the trails biking. It's just creates that wellness within the team, within the customer community. It's just magic.
It's cool. And it's like the first Run Club meeting that we had. It was fun to watch.
And I say watch because you weren't participating. You didn't get up at 7 a.m.
I've been running in my basement and trying to train so I can like not die on the run. But I was like watching because we have a few ultra marathon runners on the team. Like these people are hardcore, and you're a good runner, but you're not an ultra marathon runner. And to watch you run with these ultra marathon runners and like just the difference in individuals, and everyone's just out there having a good time, getting out, exercising, doing their best self. It was pretty cool to see. It inspired me to try to, actually run with the run club on the next meeting we have.
Yeah, it's all about being inclusive and supporting each other, right? And yeah, they could probably run twice as fast as I could, but it's not about that. It's about a community, about social, about wellness, and just everyone just spurring each other on. It's magical to see. We've sent t-shirts and visors all over the world to customers, to law enforcement, to retailers, to the team, to partners. I just want to create this movement. Yeah, it's just being part of the journey, being part of the Auror community. It's absolutely magic.
Fantastic. Nice work. Great build that you did there, and excited to see that grow. Excited to see more people join as we go throughout the year. Well, hey, Rhod, as always, just a pleasure getting to have some fun on this podcast with you, learn a little bit about build versus buy, and appreciate everyone listening in. And we'll see you on the next Retail Crime Intelligence podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Retail Crime Intelligence podcast by Auror. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on your favorite podcast app.